Basque rural sports, known as Deportes Rurales in Spanish or Herri Kirolak in Basque, is the term used for a number of sports competitions rooted in the traditional lifestyles of the Basque people. The term force basque is used in French. Virtually all regional Basque rural sports have their origin in the two main historical occupations, the baserritarra and arrantzalea, with a larger percentage hailing from the rural background. The sociological changes in the Basque Country have led many of these becoming technically obsolete in the 19th and 20th century. Few continue to exist as rural and marine activities connected to everyday life and have become rare, but many have managed to transform themselves into popular sports instead, some of which have become extremely popular. Winners receive a Basque beret as a trophy, hence the Basque word for champion, Ezquibela, literally one who has a beret. Betting, both by the competitors and the audience, is very common and popular at such sporting events in the north of Spain. The H18K rural sports. In 2006, the Basque government identified 18 particular rural sports, called H18K, in its strategic plan for promotion. These 18 categories are: Ezquibela, literally accessed, this rural sport more commonly known as Ezquibela from the Basque word for a woodcutter. This is a very popular sport today, but its origins are to be found in the rural woodcutting and charcoal burning communities of earlier periods. In this competition, the woodcutter has to chop through a number of tree trunks are arranged on the ground in rows as quickly as possible while standing on the log to beat his competitors. This sport is often seen in summer at local festivities and open-air dances held in towns all over the country. This sport translates as human-animal tests and is a collective term for a number of sports in which humans and animals are involved in dragging heavy weights. There are four main categories. Basarritarra, where people attempt to drag a heavy weight, usually a large rock, across a certain distance. Arrantzalea, same as Basarritarra but with horses. Deportes, same as Basarritarra but with oxen. Basque, same as Basarritarra but with donkeys. These normally take place on specially built trial grounds. The aim is to cover a certain distance within a given time or to cover as many circuits as possible. The Deportes are by far the most popular in this category. Arrantzalea, the lifting of stones, is one of the most widely known Basque rural sport outside the Basque Country, largely thanks to the prowess of Herri Kirolak, a arrantzalea from Leitza in Navarre, the first on record to lift stone over 300 kg. There are usually two stone lifters competing in each event, taking turns in one or several attempts to perform the greatest possible number of lifts. A lift is considered complete when the stone has been properly balanced on the shoulder. The four types of stone most frequently used are rectangular, cylindrical, spherical and square, and were established at the beginning of the 20th century. The stones are traditionally made of granite, the weight normally ranging from 100 kg to 212 kg. Together with Ezquibela, stone lifting is another example of widely performed rural sport at local festivities all over the Basque Country. Arrantzalea, the rock boring competition, involves having to punch holes into a rock. Teams of 3 compete against each other. They take turns in using a long metal pole to punch and drill a hole into a large rock upon which they are standing, pouring water onto the working area while the third person gets to rest. This tradition goes back to the quarrying activities around the Basque Country, in particular in Biscay. In Spanish it is called barrenadores, drillers, and occasionally barrantzalea in Basque as well. Arrantzalea, the lifting of anvils requires competitors to lift an iron anvil or ingud weighing 18 kilograms 30 centimeters above the height of their own head, as many times as possible in a set time period. The anvil has the shape of an obtuse triangle with a stump at one point or an elongated T and is traditionally used in shoeing horses. Champions manage some 80 lifts in 2 minutes. In Spanish this is called alzamiento de yuncan, in French lever dental. Lasto arrantzalea, literally hay bale lifting. This sport involves raising a hay bale with the aid of a pulley. The competition is usually about lifting the bale as often as possible within a given period of time, most commonly 2 minutes. The bale weighs 45 kilograms in the men's competitions and 30 kilograms in the women's competition. The most difficult part is to get a bale to the required height for the first time. Once that has been achieved, the competitors allow the bale to drop in free fall, grabbing the rope and jumping up at the appropriate moment to use their own body weight to lift the bale again when coming down. A lot of skill is needed to avoid rope burn. The visual appearance is not dissimilar to swinging on a church bell rope. In Spanish this is called levantamiento de fardo and in French lever de paille. Lasto batazia, hay bale tossing, is related to lasto arrantzalea. Here the hay bales have to be thrown over a bar set of certain height with the help of a pitchfork. For men the height is normally 7 meters, for women 5 meters, and the bale has to hit a bell for the toss to be valid. This sport is very similar to the Scottish sheaf toss. In Spanish this is called lanzamiento de fardo. Locote-Virtually, in cob gathering competitions, also called Basque-Virtually, cobs are placed at 1.25 meters distances in a line, 25 in a line at the most. The game can be played to 50, 75 or 100 cobs, in which case they are placed in sets of 2, 3 or 4. The competitors have to collect these in order and place them into a basket at one end of the row of cobs. It is called recollida de mazorcas in Spanish and course des épées de maïs in French. On arrantzalea, the churn-carrying competition usually involves milk cans and is very similar to the taking arrantzalea competition. Competitors have to carry a 41 kilograms milk churn in each hand as far as possible. This game is also called esquibela, milk carrying, or arrantzalea, can carrying. Auger Joko, the ox cart game, is a display of strength. Contestants have to lift the back of an ox cart weighing 360 kilograms 40 centimeters above ground. The cart is pivoted to the ground at the front end and competitors must rotate it, trying to go around as many times as possible. It is also called andarse in Basque. In Spanish this is called levantamiento de carro and in French lever de charrette. Sega Joker, literally scythe game. This sport is also known as segolariac, Sega proba, Sega rapustura, segolaritza. The earliest record of this sport comes from a batso dating back to 1880 about a competition in Itariots. In this sport competitors either compete to cut the most grass in a given period of time, or they are each given plots of grass of the same size, and the competition is to see who can scythe theirs the fastest. Today the competition usually lasts 1 hour, but 2-hour competitions also are still held. At the end, the grass is raked, weighed and baled to establish the winner. Traditionally, as with most Basque sports, the competitors would make a profit by betting, but monetary prizes have been put up since the 1950s. There are few actual records in this sport as it very much depends on the terrain and is thus difficult to compare. But a number of segolari have achieved fame nonetheless. For example, the legendary Pedro Maria Otano Ezaitza, commonly known as Santa Ejide from Bizarma, who was also an Ezquibela and competed up until 1915. Another famed event was the competition of 1925 in Itaiots when, before a crowd of 6,000, Pedro Mendizabal from Aar and Jose Arrieta from Urnieta battled each other. Legend has it that more than 150,000 pesetas in bets were placed. Mendizabal won, cutting 4,294 kilograms of grass in 2 hours against his rival's 3,957 kilograms. The use of scythes is still widespread today as many pastures are too steep for modern farm machinery, so scythes are used to cut grass of bracken. Working scythes have blades between 0.9 to 0.95 meters long, but competition scythes range from 1.18 to 1.24 meters in length. A decent segalari can manage some 5,000 square meters in a day. In Spanish this is simply called siga. Socatira. Tug of war is also traditional in the Basque Country. Usually 2 teams of 8 compete, trying to drag the other team over a line by pulling on the rope. There are free competitions in which the weight of the competitors is ignored, and more structured events where there are weight categories of 525 kilograms, 560 kilograms, 640 kilograms and 720 kilograms per team. Juvenile teams are always under 560 kg. 3 lines are marked on the ground, a middle line and parallel to that at 2 meters distance 2 more. The maximum length of the rope is 32 meters with a circumference between 10 to 12.5 centimeters. There are 5 markers on the rope, a red marker in the middle, 2 meters away from the red marker on either side are white markers, and 5 meters on either side of those are blue markers. The aim is to get the opposing team's blue marker over your own 2 meters line. Hands must always be on the rope, and you may not support it with any other part of your body or let it slacken. Only the last member of the team is allowed to wind the rope around the body. In Spanish this is called sogatera, and in French tirer la corde. Trança. Sawing competitions, also called arrantzalea or arparana, are seen as a variation of Ezquibela and involve sawing through pieces of wood. The log is either fixed horizontally on saw horses at a height of 40 centimeters or at an angle with one end over the saw horse and 2 members of the sawing team sitting on the lower end to stabilize the log, with 2 other handling the saw. The saw is usually 2 meters long. The logs vary but can be over 1 meter in circumference and usually between 10 to 20 in number. In Spanish this is called corde de troncos, controns or adjustrons, and in French sire de bois. Taking a arrantzalea. In the weight-carrying competition, weights have to be carried in both hands as far as possible. There usually is no time limit, but the weights weigh between 50 to 100 kilograms each and may not be put down or supported by any other part of your body. Competitors may only hold them by the rope handles but are not allowed to put their hands through them. It is possible to bring your own favorite weights, but they are checked by judges beforehand. The aim is to complete as many plaza of 28 meters as possible. You set your own pace and may stop, and champions manage between 400 to 500 meters. It is similar to the churn carrying competition. The word arrantzalea variously shows up in dialect forms such as arrutia or arroatia. In Spanish this is called prueba de taking as a carreras marmitas. Zaku arrantzalea. The sack carrying, also called zakulastaketa, requires participants to have both speed and stamina. It usually takes the form of a relay race in teams of 3 where the runners have to carry heavy sacks across the shoulders. Depending on the area, the sacks contain a variety of things from bread to beans and usually weigh 60 kilograms, 75 kilograms or 80 kilograms. In Spanish this is called carreras de contrabandistas, a carrera con saco, and in French course a sac.